Hi, good to be with you. I am here to answer the very important, well, interesting question. Maybe it's not as important. Why is NLP, that is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, so obsessed with maps? Maybe you don't know what that is, but I will begin to explain it. I am Larry Wells. I am the founder of Future Life Now. I'm a certified master practitioner, trainer, and consultant of neuro-linguistics programming, and I've been doing this for some 30 years. And so I have lots of experience. And neuro-linguistics programming, technically, the technical definition of that is the study of the structure of subjective experience. And basically, what that means is how do we maintain the beliefs and the experiences from my past and present the way we do? How do we do that? And the number one presupposition of NLP, that is the number one thing that we start with, is the belief, the presupposition that the map is not the territory. And one of the things that I use to describe this from time to time is that if I were to spread a large map of, say, where I'm from, the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, on a table so you could see the whole map, you would not confuse the map with actual Cincinnati. Cincinnati would be out there. This is a representation, it is a map. And one of our beliefs, well, the way that applies to us uh, specifically, is that I have a map of reality. And my map of reality that has been formed by my experiences in life and the things that I've learned is slightly and sometimes significantly different from yours. And an example is that I once took a group of young people to Colorado to hike in the Rockies for a week. I was a part of a group from a church, and I drove the van from central Missouri to up to Colorado to the mountains. I had a road map that was before the days that I had available to me a GPS. So I had the road map to tell me how to get to the place that I wanted to go, where I was going. And then we camped the van and the trailer, and everybody got out. We got our gear, and we started up the mountain. This happened to be um, one of the collegiates in Colorado. It was the mountain called Mount Harvard, second tallest mountain in the state. And once I got up on the mountain, started going up, all of a sudden my road map didn't work. I couldn't tell where I was. First of all, I was in the middle of the woods. There weren't any roads. Um, there weren't any signs about where I was or would give me a clue. Uh, Fortunately, some of the people that was with me were experienced mountain. We weren't really climbing mountains, but hiking up this mountain. And they had a map that worked much better. It was called a topographical map. And by looking at the topographical map, they could tell where we were in relationship to other mountains and other sites. So we got to the top of the mountain, Mount Harvard, and from there I could look down and see the town of Leadville. But I wouldn't have been able to know what it was or even how to get there had I not been had they not had this topographical map. Uh, One of the examples that's really clear for us to see in the United States, at least, is the different maps that are held by each of the political parties or all of the political parties in our country. And the major problem that we have with getting anything accomplished is that they have at least each party has its own particular map of reality and of how the nation should function. And because they are so tied to that one single map, they are in constant uh, conflict with one another. Another example is that for years and years, uh, generations, it was believed that no one could run a mile in 4 minutes or less. And they held that. It was just generally assumed and known that it couldn't be done. And then one day, lo and behold, in a race, a man run a sub 4 minute mile. What people had assumed couldn't be done had been done. And in less than a year, there were several other people then who finally were able to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And because the belief system, their map of what was possible, had changed. A number of years ago, Cynthia and I attended a weekend, sort of a spiritual retreat with Malidoma Some, who recently passed away. He was from the Adagar village in Africa. He had grown up there. When he was 4 years old, he was kidnapped by a Jesuit priest and took him to their school and kept him there until finally, I think it was at age 19, that he finally broke away, found his way back to his village. He didn't know exactly how he did that. Um, and he had been taught in French. So he didn't even know his own language anymore, but he made it back to his village, and his village decided to help him get educated and sent him to the rest of the world, to the United States, to give us some spiritual direction. But he got really, really surprised. A couple of things. He wound up with a doctorate, taken his final exams, and he felt guilty uh, because he thought he was cheating. Because when he was answering the questions, he could see the answers in his teacher's aura. That's this sort of invisible shield, invisible to most of us, about that forms around a person, and so that's an entirely different map than I have. I've never seen someone's aura, let alone find answers to test questions in it. But that was the model of the world that he had, and that's what he experienced. He was quite surprised when he discovered that people who heard voices that nobody else could hear and saw things and people that nobody else could see, and respond to those people. He was surprised that we treated that as a mental illness when in his culture that was a sign that they were in touch with the spirit world and were actually revered and given privileged places in the community. So those are all different kinds of maps, the maps that uh, we only hold some parts of it similar, but some of it different. One of the things that when I was working with, substance abuse, when I was doing substance abuse treatment, one of the sayings that we continually repeated to one another is, if you think the way you've always thought, you'll always get what you always got. And that's why NLP is interested in the maps, in our internal maps. If we want to change our lives, if we want to solve our problems, we have to change the maps that we have. Uh, you know, I'm thinking of a situation in which one person was really upset because their date was 20 minutes late. Their fiance was 20 minutes late picking them up to go where they'd gone, and the person said, "You don't love me at all because you're late." And that's a really interesting uh, kind of thought process. I mean, how much love is in 1 minute, or in 2 minutes, or 5 minutes? How much love is lost because I'm not there in 7 minutes or 20 minutes? That's a very interesting kind of map that person seemed to have, and of course, it created problems. But when I was working with substance abuse, the Alcoholics Anonymous would describe insanity as doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. So, in order to make changes in our lives, in order to have a better quality of life, sometimes we have to change our map. And that's what NLP is about. It helps people create new and more useful maps. And it's not necessarily that the map that I have is wrong. Generally, it's incomplete. That is, there's more to it than what I'm thinking about. And I limit myself with the limitations of my personal map. And so sometimes I simply need to expand the map to include more territory, more possibilities, and so forth. So NLP is really concerned about uh, this whole business about maps and helping people discover better maps for better living. And I'm doing all of this, these sessions, these live sessions, because I want to tell you about a 3-part series that I'm going to be doing in January. On January 13, 18, and 20, I'll be doing sessions about an hour long on the issues of, it's called Retrain the Brain for Success, becoming a better explorer, guide, and map maker. So those will be on January 13, 18, and 20. The topics will go from how to appropriate plan, that is, how to establish useful and appropriate and achievable plans. You would be surprised how many people try to plan their future or plan their business or plan the weekends by picking goals that they can't meet, that are impossible to meet. And some of you will hope that it brings to your mind, what kind of plans or what kind of goals can I set that are impossible to meet, that seem reasonable, seem doable, but actually are not. The next session will be about one cannot solve the problem with the same level of thinking that created it. That's a statement put forth by Albert Einstein. He always said you can't solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created the problem. And one of the things that you might recognize about this is that today's solutions are tomorrow's problems. I'm getting some help here. Uh, so I'll hang on till our technician gets things checked out here. So, but think about that. Today's solutions are tomorrow's problems, and or and from the same manner, yesterday's solutions are today's problems. One of the things that we are dealing with in our world is that all of the uh, energy producing methodologies that we've had in the past that were so good, for example, gasoline for car engines, those were great solutions back then. Now they are creating problems, environmental problems, and we're working very hard to find new ways to deal with those. So the yesterday's solutions has become today's problems. The third session will be 4 thinking errors that keep us trapped in what an unsuccessful or less successful life or experience than we want. What's the 4 thinking errors that people tend to make that keep them sort of trapped and keeps them from having the kind of life that they want? So those are the things that we're looking forward to. And Cynthia has said that as you signed in here, the place that you located us, there is a link to register for those 3 sessions, and they're free, and you can replay them. They'll be made available for you to replay if you can't watch them live. And I'm got a few minutes. I'm interested in knowing if you have comments or questions about what we talked about today, or anything that you'd like to ask about something about neurolinguistics programming. I notice that I'm rocking back and forth in this chair. That's a habit of a Wells. I told my children that In order to be a Wells, you have to like mashed potatoes, gravy, and rocking chairs. So that's not exactly related to our topic, but it is indeed part of my map of the world. And so far, it's not created many problems for me. So I'm interested in if you'll make any comments or questions about what I've presented today, and we will take some time to deal with that. I don't see anything popping up yet, but I will take some time, and we will look for something, and I don't see anything. So one of the things that I would suggest for you is to begin asking yourself, if you find an area in your life that sort of gives you a problem, it doesn't give you the kind of, what I want to say, the kind of outcome that you want. You might ask yourself, what's my map of the world? What is it that keeps me from doing what I want to do? So somebody has responded by saying that they've enjoyed listening to what I had to say, and I appreciate that. I'm glad that that's been, hopefully it's been useful and not as well as um, enjoyable. Uh, but my comment was about what is it what is it about your map that might create a problem for you? Often the map limitation that people have is, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. And the even more difficult problem with that map is that not only am I not good at it, I cannot become good at it. And those are very limiting uh, maps. And a lot of people have those maps. And one of the things that NLP does is help people discover, oh, I may not be able to be an expert, but there isn't very much that I can't improve or get better at. And changing that belief system and then setting some useful uh, and I want to say reachable goals is part of that, and we'll talk about that in January. So I have this. Yeah, I appreciate that. The appreciative thank you and happy New Year, and I want to wish all of you a happy New Year. I'm looking forward to being with you in January. And since I'm not at this point uh, getting other comments or questions, I will simply close off today and say I look forward to being with you in January for some rather in-depth uh, learning and presenting, and things can change for your life, and just by hearing what I have to say and what I have to say, what I want to teach is learnable for most everyone. So, well, no, I want to take that back. I think it's learnable for everyone who has an interest in making a difference for themselves and for those around them. Until then, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in January.